Exemption permits will no longer be valid in June. That means about 180,000 holders may face deportation. Government has been urging those affected to apply for visas. The Helen Suzman Foundation is challenging the decision at the High Court in Pretoria. A full bench will hear the matter. Let's get some analysis now from legal expert Elton Hart. Mr. Hart, good morning and thank you very much for your time as always. So the Helen Suzman Foundation essentially wants the decision by the Department of Home Affairs to be reviewed and set aside, and for the Minister to make fresh considerations. Your views on all that back and forth that we've witnessed so far?
Now, obviously, this is something that started way before 2014, and that is what we talk about now is the ZEP permits, but there was ZSPs and ZWPs, and that was a concession to actually regularize people that entered the country illegally or that was undocumented in the country. And it was a concession made by our government. It was not a right that people had. It's a concession made to say, listen, yeah, we want to formalize this and make you part of the economy so that you can actually contribute to the tax basis. So that's where it all started. And then 2017, that 3-year permits expired. And then the minister even went and gave another 4 years. So in total, these people that was in the country had 7 years to sort out their problems and actually obtain the relevant documentation to be documented. So one can say that a reasonable time was given, but on the other side of the fence, one would look at, was our Department of Home Affairs capacitated to actually handle all these 180,000 applicants? And one needs to now go check, was this 180,000 applicants all people that was in the country before 31 December 2014 and in possession of a ZSP or a ZWP? Because if you were not one of those people, then that number should shrink. And that is the people that we have to look at. And there's obviously certain criteria that's set out in the Immigration Act and regulations that they need to comply with. You cannot just come now and say a blanket approach should be taken that all Zimbabweans that's in the country undocumented should now be allowed. There is individuals that has to be looked at and individual criteria applied to each and every individual. So this is also a cumbersome process for Home Affairs because they have to do interviews, check, double check. So this process can take long.
I like the fact that you took us back to when this special dispensation was actually created for Zimbabweans. But one thing that was missing there is the reasons behind this special dispensation of a permit. It was, among others, because of the political climate in Zimbabwe. So there's also this argument as to whether things have in fact changed, because Zimbabweans to this day still say the situation that existed then still exists. ZANU-PF continues to persecute those who are have differing views to the political party and how the country is being governed, etc. So would you say the situation that existed then possibly exists now, and that might possibly be a challenge in court for the government if they cannot show cause that things have changed now, therefore that reason no longer exists?
Yes, obviously what I think the applicants will do is like they will look at the political situation or the political atmosphere in Zimbabwe and say that, listen, yeah, this is currently, or this was the reason why we left, and this has not yet returned. And obviously the political instability in the country, obviously with ZANU-PF persecuting people for not supporting the views of ZANU-PF was the first reason why they came here. But our government can then argue to the contrary and say, yes, we knew you came. We gave you the ZSPs and the ZWPs to say, regularize your stay in South Africa so that we know you are here. And we gave you a 3-year period. And after that, we extended it for another 4 years. So then you must now come and show that you meet the requirements to have these things. And that is now that you have to have a clear criminal record. You need to have a medical record. You need to have some sort of a job, or you need to be here on a spousal visa. So that are some of the things that our government can now come up with. And the people can say that the situation has not changed, but one needs to look at what was this person initially given the permit for. Now we need to talk about, is these people then refugees? Because if you are a refugee because of the political climate in your country, then you should be treated differently. If you were just a person that crossed the border because it was so easy for you to walk over a dry river, through a broken fence and into South Africa, it's just by choice, then it's a total different story. And that is where the problem starts now, where Home Affairs has a mammoth task to now actually determine who is the people that's really political refugees, who really entered South Africa or in fear of persecution, and who's the people just by choice. Because at the end, Easter, Passover, you can go to Beitbridge, then you see thousands and thousands of Zimbabweans who is permit holders, and these ZEP permit holders that would cross over the border, go back to Zimbabwe, and after the holidays, they come back. So are you really afraid that you will be persecuted if you go back home? Because a person that's afraid of being persecuted should not go home. They should remain in South Africa for their safety. So that is all the things that can be canvassed and put before court. And then obviously the minister needs to show that his decision was rational and not unconstitutional. It met constitutional master, it met the immigration laws, and there's evidence to support it. And that's where the minister is. So I think also the Helen Suzman Foundation, and I can't think that the court will just go to say to the minister, no, your decision was irrational. Because here we have various things that one needs to check. Why was the decision taken? And for me, it was like sort of half. The minister looked at a number of factors to address the irregular immigration, because we know we've got a border issue, a fence issue, that people are just walking through the fence, and then ensure that people are complying with our immigration laws, because we do have immigration laws. It's not like we don't have laws, and these permits were specifically designed to actually sort of curtail this irregular immigration, so that the minister can use, and to also protect the rights of South Africans, because we as South Africans, we have first right to our country. So there is people that sits on the other fence and say, but these people are taking our jobs and they're doing certain things. So that is also some of the things that might play out. I'm not saying that that is actually true, but that can be one side from the government side to say, listen, yeah, we want to also promote local businesses to hire South Africans so that we get rid of one of our biggest pandemics in our country, youth unemployment. So there is rationality in that decision if the minister is going to look at it from that perspective.
No, it's most certainly going to be a very interesting case to monitor. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Hart. That was legal analyst Elton Hart.